today I'm going to show you how to make some pendants. I've made a couple that were Christmas themed, and then I've done the same thing, only these I used with memory wire, these I used with regular wire, but you can do any theme on either type. With this type, with the memory wire, it's a little bit different connection in the top, but you could still put different color beads on it. It doesn't have to be Christmas. And then, of course, with the wire one, you could make it Christmas, but this one I made a little bit differently by turning my loops out and allowing my piece to hang nicely on the chain without adding a jump ring, and to allow a dangle in the middle to hang appropriately by just doing a little turn with my wire. So this one has a little dolphin, as you can see, and I've used some 6mm round turquoise beads, and then I used some hematite fire polish beads, and then on this one I used Swarovski crystal, and I used a chain in the middle and attached a bunch of dangles of Swarovski. I used 2 tones, or actually 3 tones, different color wire on this one. On this one I used all silver. On this one I used gold and silver. And on this one I used gold and silver. So I've used 2 smaller dangles here and just attached it by attaching more jump rings to one, and then attaching just to the jump ring that attaches to the pendant here, so that I can get this drop look. So there's all kinds of different ways of doing this. You just will learn the basic of the shapes and how to make these shapes, and then how to start to wrap and coil your beads, and then you can do it in anything you want. So there is not a actual material list per se, but we will look at some of the things that I had out in the beginning of this tutorial. When I make this one, I change up my material list, but it's all the same. It's just beads. So let's look and see what we need to make this project. For this project, you can just get out any crystals that you would like to use. I'm using 4mm and 6mm crystals in kind of a Christmas tone. You can use anything you want. I would stay with 4mm and 6mm size. If you go to rondelles or whatever, that's fine, or rounds, but stay within those sizes. So I have some 6mm and 4mm bicone crystals, and then I have a few different top drilled crystals for dangles in the center. And you can have them any size you would like. There's no particular list of materials for this. Just grab what you would like to use for your dangles in the center. And then you will need some jump rings. These are 6mm in diameter, a nice medium temper or harder temper, so that when I close them, they stay closed. A lobster claw clasp and a closed jump ring to clasp the end of my necklace, or you can use a toggle with jump rings, that's fine. Some chain. It doesn't matter what kind of chain, what color, just whatever you want to use, just as long as it has big enough links to put the jump rings through. And this is something I got in a bead box, in the bargain bead box, I believe. And it's a nice long piece. I will just cut the length that I need. You will need several tools. You will need round nose pliers, memory wire cutters, some end cutters, flush cutters, geez, couldn't think of it, and probably chain nose pliers and flat nose pliers would be good to have. If you want to make one of the second projects I'm going to make, which is out of wire, not memory wire, then you will need a chasing hammer or a regular hammer and a smooth surface like a bench block. Or you can use your garage floor, it doesn't matter. We will also need 24 gauge wire. If you're going to make yours out of memory wire, you'll need memory wire. This is another 24 gauge wire, so you can use 2 colors if you'd like, or 1 color, it does not matter. And then if you're going to make yours out of wire, like I did with this one, making different shapes, you'll need some 16 gauge German style wire, because it will hold its shape. It's medium temper, which means it's between 1/4 and half hard, and it really holds its shape well. You can also probably get away with 18 gauge. That should be fine too. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of my memory wire. Now, if you have bracelet oval shaped memory wire, you can use it too. It'll just end up a little bit different shape than mine is, but it'll still work fine. Now, I have a complete circle right here. I do not want a complete circle because I don't want my pendant to be that big. So I am going to cut my memory wire probably about 3/4 of a circle. So I'm going to cut here. That's still a little bit big. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off, and use your memory wire cutters with your memory wire. Otherwise, you will destroy your wire cutters. Now, we have something that looks like this. It does not matter how big it is exactly. This will work out regardless. Just kind of judge how big you want your pendant to be. You're going to lose about 1/2 inch of it by the time you turn your circles that we're going to turn for the baling. So just judge how big you want your pendant to be. Cut your wire that big. Now, when we start, we're going to grab our round pliers, and I'm holding this like this up towards the ceiling, and I'm just going to bend. I want a pretty good size loop, so I'm going to bend about, I'm going to not quite half down my pliers, and I'm going to put it right at the end of the wire and bend a circle towards me. So I've just started by bending a little crook in the wire, and then I'm going to place my pliers the rest of the way in there, reposition my hand, and just continue bending this circle towards my body. So now I have a loop in my wire that is down towards the inside of the circle of wire. So it's a loop that faces in, like so. Now, we're going to do the same thing on this side, but we are going to hold it like it's flat against the bead mat, and we are going to bend out towards ourselves. So we're going to bend a loop out instead of in this time. Doesn't have to be quite as big as your last loop, so it will fit inside this loop. So go down your pliers a little ways, go to the very end of the wire, bend a little bend into your wire like so, and then reposition your hand and continue your loop. Leave it slightly open, and then bring these together like so. Now close your loops. Grab your round pliers, grab the end of it, and just bend your loop closed. And memory wire is hard wire, so just you're going to have to take a couple of tries to get it to close. Like so. Now, what you should have is a loop that's down into the middle of your circle so you can dangle something from it. And you can also put another jump ring going this way so that you can put your chain on it, or you can just attach your chain directly to it. So that is what we're going to start with. Then we are going to grab some wire, and I think I'm going to use some gold wire, and I'm just going to cut, probably about 12 inches of wire. And you can use your regular wire cutters on that. I just used my memory cutters because they were there. And then we are going to begin coiling a coil and then placing a bezel around a crystal. So what we're going to do is we're going to go underneath our wire like so. Hold a little piece. You're going to lose a little length here, but hold it up so that you have something to steady your wire with. and then begin wrapping a coil. So you're just going to go around your wire, hold this part between your fingers, and your first coil isn't going to be all that neat. You're just going to have to squeeze it together like so, like this. Let me get you a little closer so you can see what I've got. Now I can hold on to this and I can begin coiling. My first couple coils will not be really close together and really neat. So what I will do is I'll just scooch them over. You can use your fingernail or a pair of pliers, and I'll show you how to do that. So I've got these. I could have probably put those closer together to start, but I didn't. So I will just grab my chain nose pliers and scoot them together. And now I will hold this steady, and I will begin coiling nice and neatly and slowly, trying to put them together as close as I can. And if I do not get them perfect, I'll scoot them together with my pliers. No big deal. So I'm going to coil about 6 times around my wire here. Maybe a couple more, maybe like 8 coils. At the top here, I don't want to start right on the top. So I'm going to make this top coil a little longer. Okay, so now I'm coming around my loop of wire, of memory wire. I'm coming up towards the top of my piece. I am going to pick up I think I want a 6mm on the top of this one. So I'm going to start with 6mm bicone. I'm going to bend it over, just kind of take my wire and bend it over like so. And then I'm going to bring this wire down around my memory wire and make 1 coil. Then I'm going to bring this wire around my bicone, move this one out of the way, and I'm going to start coiling around the bottom of my bead. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 wraps around it, like so, and push those wraps down underneath my bead a little bit. Then as I come around, I'm going to go down into the inside of the coil, of the loop, and then I'm going to start coiling again. And I'm going to coil 6 times. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6. Let's see, maybe not quite 6, but just a few. Let's see what I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 coils. So you can make them all basically the same in between your beads here. Then I'm going to pick up another 6mm bicone, bring it down, bend my wire kind of up so that this will sit right on top of my memory wire, nice and neat. Then I'm going to bring my 24 gauge wire under the memory wire, loop once, and what I try to do, which I didn't do on the first one, is I try to make my first wrap around the bicone kind of high up on the bicone, and then when I make my other wraps behind it, I go underneath that first one I wrapped, is what I like to try to do. It makes it a little neater. So I just go underneath each wrap with each new wrap. Put 3 or 4 wraps on, as much as you feel like you need to make it pretty. I think I've done 4. And this is nothing precise, just do it how you like it. And then I'm coming from behind the crystal and I'm just coiling again around here. I'm going to give myself 5 coils. And now I'm in position to add another if I would like to. But I don't really have a lot of wire. I could add maybe a small crystal now. And so it doesn't really matter. Like with this one, I did all 4mm crystals, and I did as many as I wanted here. With this one I did 2 bigger crystals and then some smaller ones in another color. So maybe we'll do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this around one more time so that I'm coming out right on the top here. I'm going to cut that wire off, and then I'm going to use my chain nose pliers and squish that wire down nice and tight against my memory wire. You want to make sure that it's somewhat tucked in and not sharp. Yep, that feels okay. And then this top wire, we can go ahead and make sure our coils look good. Yeah, a little late for that. Maybe I can do it. There we go. And do the same thing. Cut this wire off and then squeeze it down against the memory wire. Tuck it in the best you can. Make sure it's not sharp. Those feel okay. So now I want to start another section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back off a little. I don't even know if I was in camera. So I'm going to grab another length of wire. And let's see. I think I want to make sure it's how long it is. I'm going to grab about 14 inches of wire. None of this is precise, doesn't truly matter, just as long as you have enough to kind of work your way around. I'm going to start another coil of wire right next to this coil. So I'm going to hold on to it just like I did before, give myself a little length to hold on to, and I'm going to start a wrap. And this is a little bit harder to do, so let me do that again. I want to start my wrap really close to this other one. So I've just grabbed my extra piece of wire so I can hold it between my fingers here. You can tell I'm not really a wire wrapper, can't you? That's okay. I pretend. Alright, and hold it and start wrapping some coils. You don't have to change the color of wire, and you can start with a much longer wire so you don't have to restart coils if you don't want to. It's really not that difficult. You just have to play with it until you get a hold of it and get control of it. That's all you have to do. I've got a few little coils here. I think I'm going to take one more, about 5 coils, so it's pretty even with the gold coils that I made right above it. And then I will grab my pliers and just kind of squish my coils together. Squish it up against the gold coils. I'm just trying to finagle this around so that I can cut it. There. I'm going to cut this off. Squeeze it down against the memory wire, and then I'll squeeze it up towards the gold wires, the gold coils, and just finagle it in there the best I can. And now I have a color change. Feels pretty smooth. Now I need to bring my wire up towards the outside of my memory wire loop, and I'm going to grab a 4mm bicone. Bring it down. I kind of like to bend the wire up like this, and then bring it down as close to my bicone as I can. Make one coil, and then start wrapping it around my bicone. So I bring it down around the bottom of the bicone as tightly as I can. I had to push it towards underneath the bicone, and then I try to wrap underneath each previous wrap. Just kind of makes it neater. I'm going to go around 3 times on these little ones. And then as I come around, this time I'm coming around this way, I'm going to wrap a coil. And probably, say 5 coils. So I've got 2, 3, 4. My 5th one, I'm coming up, and this is where I can go ahead and add another bicone. If these squish apart, you can just scoot them back up. As we finish things, they will stay in place a little bit better. You can also crimp them on a little bit with your pliers. Then I'm going to go ahead and pick up a big bicone, because I think I want to make this one a little bit different than my last one. So I'm going to pick up a big bicone and put it right here in between some small red ones. Bend my wire down, bring a coil, and then I'm going to start wrapping underneath my bicone, one full wrap. Then I'm going to go underneath that wrap if I can. And then underneath that wrap if I can. Sometimes they go underneath and sometimes they don't. But just try to make them as neat as you can. See how they're turning out pretty neat? Now as I'm coming back around, I am going to coil. And this is the process. I'll take 5 coils, and then I'll put on another one of my little red ones. And just design how you want it to look. So this is so cool, because this is the same color as this, but in the gold that looks totally different. The color of wire makes a difference. So I will just design here, and then if I decide I want to change the colors back to gold, I'll change the colors back to gold. Continue putting crystals on and wrapping around it as you see fit. It's a very simple process to do, and design how you want your beads to look on top of your wire. And then we will be back once we've worked all the way around placing coils and crystals. Okay, so I went ahead and finished wrapping, coiling, and then wrapping all of the beads that I wanted on this particular piece. So I started with my gold, and I did a couple big ones, and I did a little ones, and I did a big one, a little one, big one in silver, and then a bunch of little ones in gold. And now I want to make a dangle to hang down the middle of my pendant. So I've cut a 12-inch piece of 24-gauge silver wire. I'm going to do this one on silver. And because I have more gold, I want to bring out the silver again. So I am going to slide this piece of wire through my large drop. And then I am just going to bring the two ends basically together, so I center this in the middle of the wire. And then I'm going to gently squeeze these two pieces over the top of this pendant bead, like this, over the top of the drop. Get you close so you can see. And just make sure you have enough room to allow the top of the bead inside your little triangular area. And then you're going to grab your round nose pliers, and you're going to put the small part of your round nose pliers, the smallest part, right where you pinch those two wires together. And you're going to very gently, let me get those together a little better. You're going to very gently move the wires over that part of your plier, like so. Then you're going to move your wrist, just twist it around so that your pliers are on top of that bend you just created. Don't let them separate too much. A little bit is okay. And then bring these wires over the top of your pliers, like so. Hold them in place and bring the wires around the connection you created. I'm going to continue holding it with my pliers as I take a wrap or two around the wire right where I crimped it together. And then I'm going to continue wrapping. Just trying to get a better grip here. There we go. And I'm going to just gently wrap, trying to keep my drop in place. Just go slowly. And continue wrapping until you're all the way down and your drop is held into place. Now you can do a messy wrap. This is a neat wrap. I'm laying each layer on top of the previous layer, wrapping it very neatly. You can do it messy if you'd like. It doesn't necessarily have to be very neat. Once I get to the end of my wrap, I am going to cut this down a little bit. Now you can either try to tuck them under, which doesn't work very well, or you can bring them around into a coil. And I like to lay it on top of the wrapped portion. I don't like to lay it over my bead. So I just coil it and bring it over the top of my bead, like so. Now I want to straighten out my loop because I kind of mangled it. I'm not the best wire wrapper in the world, but as you practice, you get better and better. Just try it a few times until you get a method down that works for you. So here's my wire wrapped drop, and I'm just going to make sure that the top of it, the loop I made, is straight with the swirls I made on front. So I want this to be like flat against my bead mat. I want it to be flush flat. And then in the same alignment with the swirls on my drop, so that I can then open a jump ring. Place the jump ring through, and then place the jump ring through the drop or the loop that's pointing down on my pendant, and then grab a hold of it and close this jump ring. Which can be kind of tricky. Okay. and now it will hang the right way. So you just want to make sure that as you're hanging it, the front of the pendant will, or the front of the drop will hang towards the front of the pendant, like so. And that's a pretty little pendant. I was going to put a chain in there and dangle a bunch of different ones from it, but with this bigger crystal, I don't really think it needs it, so I'm not going to do that. I've changed my mind. Now I'm just going to grab a piece of chain and cut it the length that I think I would like my necklace to be. Okay, so I've cut my length of chain that I want to use. I'm going to open one end and I'm going to put my lobster claw clasp on one end of the chain. So I actually will open a link on the end here. So look and see where your link is open, and then just place your pliers and twist. Now see, I had it upside down. It's hard to see where they open, but that's all right. I've opened it. I'm going to put it back on the chain here. And then I'm going to grab my lobster claw, and I'm going to slide it on my chain loop that I've opened here, the link. And then I'm just going to twist and close this link again. So you can see it's open, slid on my lobster claw, and then I'm just going to close it very gently. This is a pretty strong chain. Sorry guys, I'm slipping. There we go. Now I have one end of my chain prepared, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my pendant, and I'm going to grab another jump ring, and I'm going to open my jump ring. See if I can. So you want 6-8 millimeter jump ring, something kind of large so that you can put your chain through it. So I've got my jump ring. I'm putting my pliers, one on one side, one on the other side, twist it open, like so. Then I'm going to grab my pendant, put it on there, grab my pliers, and twist it closed again, shaking it a little bit, trying to make sure that I get a nice tight closing. And as you shake it, that kind of works and hardens the wire a little bit. Make sure this one is closed. It looks pretty closed. And then I will take my chain, the end that I did not put my lobster claw on, of course, and I will put it through this. That is not closed. Close it better. It's funny, you look at your jump ring once and it looks closed, you look again and it's not. It's weird. It's the way it works, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to drop my chain through here and pull it down. And then I'm going to open a link and put, so you can see what it looks like. I just pulled it down on my chain. Now I'm going to open a link and put my closed jump ring. You don't have to use a closed jump ring. You can use an open jump ring if you'd like. I just think that closed jump rings offer a little bit more security for your pieces as a clasping end. So I like to use a closed one. So I'm dropping my closed jump ring right onto that link, and I'm going to close this link. See if I can do this without slipping. Not very well. Okay, so now let me back off. I have a necklace. Of course, you can find a center link and put your jump ring through a center link too. You do not have to put your chain through it. You can just put your jump ring through a very center link so that each side is symmetrical, and then that way your pendant won't move around on your chain. This way the pendant does move around, and it won't hang quite as perfect as if you hung your jump ring on a center link, but it works just as well. So it's just a preference, a personal preference. So that is one complete pendant. Okay, for this next piece, I have decided not to do it Christmas theme, so I've just taken out a few different beads, some little pieces of turquoise, some crystals, some hematite fire polish 4mm beads, and you can use anything you want. And I'm just going to show you basically how to make the form here. So I have got an old artistic wire spool here, and it is about 1 inch in diameter. So I'm going to use it. I've cut 5 inches of my 16 gauge German style wire, which is a little bit harder than dead soft. It's about half hard. It's medium temper. So not quite half hard, but I'm going to bring this and I am going to wrap it around this spool the best I can. Since it has lips, it's a little harder to wrap around. If I had something that didn't, it would be easier, but everything I have is too big. I just don't want my pendant that big, so I'm going to wrap it around and then try to take it off without unbending it, which is going to be a trick. And there we go. So it's not perfectly round, but it's okay. I have a few other round things that I can try, but that's okay. So anyway, something just to form a circle, like so. And then I am going to, and it's overlapped here. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't truly matter. I am going to grab this inside piece here, and I'm going to grab it with the very end of my round nose pliers because I want it to be a big loop. And I'm going to start making a loop, turning it towards the inside of the circle here. And just guiding it around, like so. Then I'm going to pull it down in, like this. I'll probably mess with it a little bit more, just because I didn't have a perfect form. If you have a better form than I did, you won't have to worry about it as much as I am going to have to play with this shape to kind of get it to work for me. Now I'm going to push this in a little bit. And I'm going to straighten out the side just slightly, like so. And then I'm going to grab the end of it and turn it out towards me, out away from the inside of the circle with the biggest part of my pliers. Grab at the very end of the wire as you start to turn, reposition your hand when you've got half of a turn, and then continue to turn until you complete the loop, like so. Then you're just going to shape it with your fingers, bringing these two pieces in alignment with each other. And let me fix this one. That's not going to be completely round, but that's okay. Just kind of mess with your shape until you get it looking pretty much like you want it to look. Like this. This isn't too bad of a shape here. I might want to bring this one out and up more, so I'm going to try pulling it over and bringing it out more, like so. That way it's just a little bit further over. It's not quite in alignment, but it'll hold my pendant straight, and I kind of like that shape better. So once you get a shape that you like, then you're going to, and this doesn't, you can use a jig, you can, if you're not a total beginner and you want to, if you have a jig and you want to make different shapes, however you want to do it. It's pretty easy to just manipulate it into a shape that you like. Once you get a shape you like, then either grab a regular hammer or a chasing hammer. If you have a regular hammer, just tap lightly on a smooth surface. If you have a chasing hammer and a bench block, that's ideal. Then you're just going to tap it, and I will do most of this off camera, but you're going to tap it into hardness, and it will hold its shape better. So once you start hammering it, you are going to have a piece that will stay without bending up. Now, if you'd like to, you can put some texturing in it, or you can just tap it. I'm just going to go ahead and go off camera and tap this and set my shape. Okay, I have set my shape. And the first thing I notice is that my loops aren't completely closed, and since I am going to be dangling things, a chain off this one, and on the inside here I'm going to put something on here, and I don't want them to fall off, I'm going to go ahead and grab it and see if I can close it a little bit more, even though I've already hammered it. And then this one also. Let's see if I can close it a little more. Because you can still manipulate it after you hammer it. You may have to tap it again to put it back into shape, but you can still work with it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to set my shape a little bit more, and I'll be right back. I now have my shape. I'm going to set this aside, and then I am going to, I think I want to dangle. Let's see if that'll, nope, that's really too big. I think I'm going to find a charm to dangle in here, or, yep, I think I'm going to find a little charm to dangle in here, and then I will wrap, like I did with the other piece. I'll take some silver, I'm not going to put the gold on this one, and I'll start coiling, and I will coil some beads on here. So let me find some kind of little charm, and we'll be back. I think this little pewter dolphin is going to be really cute on there. It's a little bit bigger than my circle. I can manipulate it around to make it fit in there better, but I kind of think that him hanging a little bit outside the circle is kind of cool. So I will have to put my wrapping on, making sure that I have a coil there instead of a bead so that he'll hang appropriately. So then I'm going to set him aside. I have a jump ring, and I'll attach him with a jump ring to the middle here, and I'm going to start coiling some beads onto my my little form that I just created here. So I'm going to cut a piece of 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to start my coiling just like I did before in the other one. So I'm not going to stick around and show you the whole thing. I just wanted you to see how you could do this with a piece of wire and making your own shape, whatever shape you would like. And so we have accomplished that. And then of course I'm just going to go right up here, and I'm going to start my coiling. Sure, Gina, sure you are. Okay. Wire just argues with me. That's all it does. It just argues with me. I'm going to get it up here, and I'm going to start coiling. And this is, starting it out is always kind of funky. Just going to get myself a little tight coil here and a piece that I can hold on to. If you don't have a piece to hold on to, then you're going to end up just the wire will twirl as you try to coil it. So you have to have a long piece to hold on to. And this twirl up here helps me. I have glue on my fingers. If you see that, I'm sorry. I was gluing. I'll show you what I was gluing in a minute. But anyway, I can't work with glue without doing that. So I'm going to start my coil. And this is kind of nice because I can just go around instead of having to pull it through a loop. I can just go around. And now I'm just squishing my coils together, like so. And then I'll just continue, and then I'll grab one of my beads. I think I'm going to try push these coils together. Maybe one more. And it's going to continue to move until I get a bead on there. When you're coiling, make sure you pull your coils really tight. Then I'm going to try this turquoise bead. I'm sorry, I know I was out of camera. I apologize. Okay, so now I've got this turquoise bead. I'm going to lift it up on the side there So what I mean by that is I'm just bending the wire so it sits on top of my piece a little bit better, and then I'm going to coil once around it like this, and then I'm going to start turning around the bead, and I'm just going to set, instead of trying to go underneath the bottom one, I'm just going to set a few on top so I can travel up the bead, because this round bead is a little bit taller, so I want to kind of travel up it, and then I am going to coil again. And that's what that's going to look like. So I'm going to continue making a few more beads on here, and I will come back and show you what I've got. Okay, so I have put all my beads on here, and I've decided this little bead up now because I've turned it, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I turned it back just so that I can show you how I'm going to do this. My dolphin didn't want to fit in here, right? Especially with another jump ring. So I've just grabbed a hold of this ring in the middle, and I turned it out towards me, and then opened the loop part and dropped my charm onto that, like so, and then close the loop. And yours won't be as beat up as mine because I've done it a couple times now, just because. So I've closed that loop. I wanted to show it on camera. Then I push all of these forward. I get you close. And that's what that ended up to be. So this doesn't have to be a Christmas charm at all. Now see, when you do this, you just grab your loop. So this is our original form. We're just going to grab this loop and turn it. Just turn it straight out. And then you're just going to open this part here just by twisting it a little bit, and then you can grab one of your charms. This one may not fit on this wire. Yeah, it's a little too small. So I'm just going to grab a charm. Some of the holes in these charms are a little bit small, so you just have to find one that works or use a jump ring. I'm going to drop this little cross on here, and then I'm going to close it. So after I've decorated it, I can have this hanging the proper direction, like so. And you just work on it. I mean, you can bring it forward so that it's not sticking out, and you can do whatever you want with it, but that's basically how I did it. That's how I did this one. Instead of leaving the loop straight down, like I did this one, which you can also do, you can leave the loop straight down and then dangle a piece, put a piece of chain on it with dangles of crystals on it too. You can also do that. And if you want to make a dangle, all you have to do is grab a head pin, put it through your crystal or whatever you want to dangle, bend that over the crystal like so, and then cut it down so you have about 1/4 of an inch, and then grab your round nose pliers and place them at the very end of the wire between the pliers, wherever you want the size of your loop to be. I think I'm going to go just a little bit bigger, and then turn. You get a little hook like this. You reposition your hand by just turning your wrist and continue to turn until you have a loop, like so. And then when you want to dangle it on something, say you're going to put it on this piece of chain here, then you just open it like that, put it on your chain, and close it. Make a few more and hang them on each chain link above until you have filled up your chain. I will usually put one on this side of a loop and one on this side of a loop, and then one on this side of the loop, one on this side of the loop. So one in the very bottom like this, and then two on each subsequent loop, so that they hang really pretty, like this one. So you can do that and then put a jump ring on it and put it through your loop, or open your loop and slide it on there, the chain. You can do that too. So there's all kinds of ways you can do it. And then I told you I was going to show you, I was playing with glue. I decided to make a larger loop on this one, and then I just glued a Rivoli on it. Of course, I got glue everywhere. I got it on my Rivoli and everything. It made me mad. But just do it carefully. Handle your Rivoli carefully, maybe with a pair of tweezers or something. Just put it on there. I'm just messy with glue. But you could go ahead and decorate this up, wrapping your coils and putting on some of the beads, like with this one, or any of the others. This is another one here. And then just put a piece of chain on it, and you've got a really pretty little necklace. Let me move this back and I'll show you the pieces I made just so that you can see them. So these are the ones with memory wire, and this one is out of wire, this one's out of wire, and I will just put a chain on here. I wanted to show you too, I also decided to turn this loop straight up and down too, so that I can just slide my chain through it without adding a jump ring to it, and then it'll lay correctly. So what I did, like with this one, I can do it. I'm just going to take this loop on top, lay my pliers on it, and just turn it straight like this. And then just straighten it out. And now I can just run my my chain right through there. And I don't have to worry about putting a jump ring on it. It's ready to go. So turning these loops out is, I think, brilliant. Anyway, that's how you're going to do that. And like I said, you can leave them straight. You can leave them any way you want. But if you find that you want to have something that dangles a little bit better in there, turning it out and turning this one out will also help make the piece a little bit different and lay a little bit nicer. Anyway, those are just a couple more tips on what you can do with this. Just be creative with it. You don't have to do anything like I've done it. Do it any way you want. It's just an idea. Have fun.